This is Jonathan Katz with your Tech Tuesday. It's been about 2 weeks since we've last spoken. We are absolutely thrilled to be welcomed by Jim Minadio today. Hey, Jim.
Hi, guys. Hi, Jonathan.
And I'll tell you, hopefully everyone's off to a good start. I mean, the weather's in the 60s in Philadelphia, so hopefully the same in Jersey. But Jim, I'm excited to talk to you on a couple fronts. One of the most fascinating things, and I think we'll get into in just a moment, is when most people think about technology, they think about kind of what's right in front of them, and they often don't think about kind of what supports that technology and how that technology can run and how it can run safely. And I think that's a lot of what you focus on and what you bring to the table and kind of what your company does.
And then with the infrastructure bill just being passed recently, so it kind of shines a light on it. And even John Oliver just did a piece on the electric grid. And so it's hopefully becoming more and more top of mind for people that you can have technology that doesn't wear out, which is kind of what our technology doesn't need to be upgraded. There's no 2.0 needed. Awesome. Until they change how power is done, it's going to be the same. And then just the fact that you do need to think about, well, how, I have this great computer, how do I keep it working?
Right.
Besides doing security updates, did you ever think about protecting the computer itself?
Nobody ever thinks about that. And then all of a sudden something will break and then it's like they throw up their hands, but they never. I like to equate, you're like the offensive line, where it's like the offense doesn't run without a solid offensive line supporting it.
Right. Until you get a holding penalty, and then you wonder how that ruined the whole thing.
Yeah,
that's the difference. We don't have any hands to hold, so we never have holding penalties.
Well, for kind of people out there that are maybe new to this or just kind of tuning in, can you go ahead and maybe give us a background, both about yourself, but about what surge protection is, kind of what the industry focuses on, and maybe a little bit about your technology?
Okay, so Zero Surge was founded about 32 years ago by Rudy Harford. And he was an engineer that worked for RCA, and he helped develop color television. He's got like 30 patents, and very smart guy. He's almost like a MacGyver farmer kind of guy. So he's very practical, but very smart at the same time. And so he developed this technology because he was seeing that current surge protection uses something like this. It's called it's called a metal oxide varistor. This little thing is what every other surge protector uses. And what he said, he realizes that there's a lot of inherent flaws to that technology, which we don't have the time today to go through everything, but go to our website, you can learn more about it, or give me a call, we'll talk about it. But basically he came up with this guy. So this, right, there you go. This is an inductor that actually filters surges. So surges, really briefly, are just a high frequency noise. So in air alternating current, you have power that oscillates at 60 times a second, 60 hertz. And so that's the vibration that we want, the good vibration. And what we do is we filter out anything that's vibrating faster than that. And that's what this does. So it's called a low pass filter. We let the low frequency energy go through. That's the good stuff. And then we filter out anything that's vibrating faster. So we don't care if it's in voltage, if it's a current surge, if it has EMI noise, it doesn't matter how long it is, we'll filter it. And the beauty is we don't degrade because we're using magnetics, whereas this guy degrades. So this thing has only two modes of failure too. It either opens up and then you don't have any protection and you may not even know it, or it catches fire. Those are the two ways it fails.
Which are both pretty serious failures.
Right. So
yeah.
So we're because we're a heavier duty, we're made in the US. You can see these guys behind me on my screen. These are all the plugins. It does cost more than the traditional surge protector. Can be 2 to 5 times more depending on which one you get, but it never wears out, so you don't have to replace it. And then, so are we for everything? Maybe not for a $200 computer. Maybe you don't worry about it, but people have $1,500 Macs. People have access control systems. They need to be up 24/7, no matter what. Alarm systems. or we're big recently in digital menu boards. So everything is drive-through now because of COVID. Everything is,
Right.
touchless and screens and kiosks. And so we've hooked up with a couple companies that make these things, and we protect their system so they don't have to send somebody out. Because like an example, like a Wendy's used us for years for their menu boards and their POS systems to protect them, because if a cash register goes down, that's $3,000 a day. They can't collect.
Yeah.
So
I think you brought up a good point. You kind of quickly went over it, but I think when a lot of people think of surge protectors, they do in fact think of those larger applications. I mean, me personally, when I think of surge protectors, I think of, something like at a movie theater, or making sure that can stay powered. But you're right, like a lot of, at least in my experience, or maybe from what I've taken away, maybe people don't think about it with their own personal computers.
right.
So how do you have different surge protectors for different size applications, or is it kind of a one size fits all? And
well, the technology is the same. So, but what we offer is different convenience of how you connect. So that we have plug-in models like these guys, and then we have hardwired ones for hardwired applications. And then we also sell the guts as an OEM product, and that is incorporated into other people's products.
Okay,
so we
gotcha.
have it for those larger systems. It saves them cost because they have their box already. They don't need to buy another box or buy cords or whatever. So we do have it that way. But the basic plugins that the majority of people would use can be handled with an 8 outlet or a 2 outlet, or there's a couple of caveats like we do. So like a battery backup, we don't have battery backup. So you buy a battery backup because they're basically, that technology is pretty standard. It's just a lead battery. But what we do is we offer a 2 outlet model that you could plug into the 8 outlet model UPS, because you can't daisy chain.
I was just going to ask that.
With another 8 outlet one.
Okay.
You can put our 2 outlet one because it's less than 3. So it's the caveats. It's not daisy chaining, but we protect UPS from damage as well, and then protect whatever behind that.
Do you help people kind of figure out what they need? So like if someone comes to you with an issue, or they say, "Hey, I have this set up," so you kind of have like that's helpful, because I think a lot of people would, again, going back to just not even knowing that they need something like this, maybe not be aware of, once they do need it, well, what exactly setup do I need?
Right. And we'll tell you too, if you don't need it, like refrigerators do not need surge protection, no matter how fancy it is, because the motor inside that refrigerator is what's causing the problem. It's creating, because that's the other thing is people don't realize 80% of surges originate from inside the building. So you're, like I said,
I did not know that.
So surges are because, that electricity flowing. Right. So you turn on and off a light switch, you create a surge because you're changing that flow.
Okay.
So the way the analogy I like to use is like a water through a hose. So a hose, you step on the hose, you create a surge.
Right.
So the same thing happens like when a toaster demands power really quickly, the toaster creates a surge. Coffee machines, different heating elements, things like that, ovens, air conditioning systems, all those things create surges. They don't need surge protection directly.
And a surge could be less. So like if you turn something off and because in my brain, when I hear surge, I think of like a wave, and I think of like a giant, it causing more things to flow through. But it almost sounds like a surge could be maybe less.
Oh yeah, well the thing is that the surge could be in both, because there's voltage and current. So power is voltage times current. So your device demands power. So your device doesn't care if the power is in voltage or current. So if the power company is not having a good day and it's 100 degrees out and they can't support the voltage, then what happens is the current rises to meet that power need. And when you increase current, you increase heat. And that's what damages refrigerators, because refrigerator motors don't want to get hot. So if they're hot because you've given them too much current and not enough voltage to drive it, then the windings get hot, and then the windings degrade. And then all of a sudden the refrigerator dies. And so a technician comes out and says, "Oh, you had surge damage." Right. Well, no, that was damage from, days of degradation.
Yeah.
Right. So a surge happens within one cycle of power. So within 1/60th of a second. So it's like 50 to 100 microseconds. Stuff that damages appliances happen in 2 or 3 seconds, which is like a million times longer. So it's a
Okay.
different.
I was fascinated. Now I'm like double fascinated. I didn't actually realize there was that level of detail into it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of myths. There's like people sell whole building surge protectors. Well, 80% of surges are inside the house. So what
Yeah.
are you getting from that whole building surge protector?
Right. Right.
Plus, for it to survive they have to use bigger versions of this MOV, and so this it lets through more energy. So we haven't got into that detail of it, but basically, traditional surge protectors don't just work all the time. They wait for something to happen. So when the
Okay.
voltage rises, then they do something.
Okay.
But while it's rising, it's still that little bit of voltage difference is
Right.
damaging your equipment.
Right.
Whereas
Little by little.
so we're doing it in real time, so we don't. There's no wait for the
Okay.
surge to happen.
That's an important piece because
Yeah,
it could be death by 1,000 paper cuts if you only wait till a certain threshold.
exactly. And that's why
Yeah.
things fail randomly, and that's why that's surge damage is when you have like
Right.
a random monitor goes out or. And the other thing is because they also divert the surge when they do work, push the problem into another part of the building. So you may have a surge protector on your computer, but not on your TV. The surge comes in, gets diverted by the computer, and then on its way back, it hits the TV on the way out.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, the TV broke. It's a crappy brand. It's like, well, no, that surge protector probably broke, caused that issue.
Honestly, I have a TV at my house right now that is broken, and I wonder if that's what caused it.
Well, so then you have to look at, there's also like TVs, the issue is there is a light bulb there that has a fine, LEDs don't last forever.
Yeah.
So there's that. So a TV, how old was the TV
Fairly new,
roughly?
maybe like
Okay.
2019.
Okay. Well, then that probably could be a surge damage.
Yeah.
But if it was like 10 years old,
Then it
I
could.
would
Yeah.
say
Then
that
it was
probably
that.
the bulb eventually goes
Okay.
at some point.
Okay. I'll have to look into it. Wow. It's cool. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. There's a lot.
so you
So
you
like,
kind of
if you just real quick, so if you call us, like, I help people. Donna DeVico is our sales director. She does a good job too. She knows all that stuff. She'd be a good guest to talk about how, like, she'll start talking and they'll be like, well, we want to talk to an engineer, and like she knows more than most
right.
engineers
Right.
on this stuff. The whole how the discrimination of that aspect. But we do surprise people because we do answer the phone and we do talk to people, and we'll spend half an hour if it takes half an hour, and then sometimes at the end of the call it's like you don't really need us or you can't afford us, and that's fine.
No, but I love that because you're not just out there selling for the sake of selling. You're selling to truly help. And
Yeah.
yeah, if there's not a use case, I like to think I try to take that same approach. If someone calls me for automation and there's nothing I can do, I'm not going to just sell them something to do something.
Right. Something they could do manually quickly.
Right.
What's the point?
Right. And I do like this about your product. You did kind of hint to it. But technology is ever changing, and the computer that I'm using today is going to be replaced by a computer a year from now with higher speeds and a better processor. So it seems like your technology can keep up with all of the other technology that's changing out there.
Yes. As long as you're using AC power, it doesn't matter. At some point you need power. So
yeah,
sure, if it's DC powered, then there's no surges on DC lines. But that DC power supply had to get power from the AC grid, because that's what unless you go direct solar to a battery and then the battery runs direct, 12 volts or 24 volts or something like that, then yeah, you don't need us because there's no surges in that situation.
This is probably a silly question, but does the type of power, whether it's coal or solar or wind or fossil fuels, does that have any type of impact on this?
No, not really. The only thing on the source of power would be generators. So if you have a little Honda generator, even a whole house generator, they're a little bit noisier, and they're also more susceptible to that voltage drop issue.
Right.
So like Sub-Zero we were dealing with a customer who had a Sub-Zero refrigerator, and they were having issues. She thought it was surge damage, but it turned out it was this voltage problem, especially when she had her generator. Because Sub-Zero will actually say, we do not recommend using generators with our product, and that's because they can't support the voltage.
Okay. I mean, I have been reading articles that standby generators and backup generators are 7 to 12 months back ordered because of the pandemic.
Hey,
So I don't know if there's an association with that, but it does seem like there's a strong need out there for backup and standby generators that people have.
well, that started with Sandy, right? In this local area.
Yeah.
When Hurricane Sandy hit, it was like that's when people realized the value of generators. And so a lot of people have generators, and it's like, well, you got to realize if you have a generator, you got to be careful. Do you ground it? If it's not grounded, then now you could be electrocuted. You know, there's issues like that. If you use an ungrounded generator with this MOV technology, it will catch fire because this needs the ground to work.
Yeah.
You know, those kind of things. Whereas we don't need the ground to work. So like our technology would work better for a generator. And we also work in old homes that don't have ground. So there's still like a quarter of the homes in this country don't have ground.
And you have technicians, I guess, go out to the property, or will go out and assess this, or
I just plug it in. You could I mean, you'll know if you have ungrounded house, you would already know that.
Okay.
Because you probably wouldn't have the third prong in the receptacle, and then it would also be part of the inspection. So
gotcha. Okay.
Going in, and people, even apartment buildings, they'll know because the landlord has to tell them
If it's
it is a safety. Yeah, it is a safety issue. So you got to know that. So you wouldn't like expect it to like a ground fault to trip or something.
I guess most people are just used to having that now. I mean, it seems, at least from my experience, typically you have that 3-prong.
Well, right. It's since the 60s, but there's places, especially out west, I've noticed, like in the Los Angeles area, there must have been a lot of apartments built in the 30s. And because it's a nice climate and nothing degrades there, because it's all built on brick adobe type stuff. So a lot of apartments are still there, but they don't have the grounding because it's harder to wire it through a brick wall, you know, or
I can imagine
concrete wall and stuff like that. So
right.
We do get a lot of those kind of customers.
Okay. Well, we're coming close. This actually went really fast. Just because, so I gotta ask you, just because I'm fascinated by this and I think it's incredible. You seem to do a ton of philanthropy, and it seems like you're a very involved person. And here you are running a business, but also taking the time out of your day to kind of help people and help others. What kind of attracted you to philanthropy? What kind of got you started, and what do you love about it?
Well, I guess I'm sure my parents had a lot to do with it because they, you know, growing up Catholic, you do a lot of charity stuff. You know, you have to do it to be confirmed, things like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, my dad was always involved in the school. I think that's how it started as a parent being involved with my children. They're older now, they're 25 and 20. But, you know, I got involved in the PTA, and we had a really small school. It only had 80 kids. So it was kind of like at some point, our generation of parents, as our kids got into 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, it was like, you know, we have to take over now because these other parents, they kind of run
do it.
So we started doing it that way, and it's the reward of, you know, helping the kids, doing programs for them, doing the fundraising. You know, it gets you involved. It forces you out of your house. It gets you to meet your neighbors, things like that. And so that's part of it, is just being part of the community. It's a way of, excuse me, you know, as a engineer or scientist, like I'm always, you know, I'm stuck in an office, so I don't get to meet people. So that was also a way of doing that. And then it became a sales kind of thing too, networking. You know, we do the Hack 100 in with Dennis, and you know, that was just a way of meeting other technology people. And so but I just always am the one that volunteers to do, you know, when Mark Salek says, hey, I need somebody to help me to take over the meeting because I have to leave early. And then that leads to me showing up to a board meeting, which leads to Don and I doing stuff with the Hack 100 in, doing a hackathon. And then next thing you know, it's just one of these things that just, you say yes, and then 5 minutes later, you're on a board somewhere.
I love it. I think the world of that kind of stuff, and it's amazing.
Thanks.
All right. So last question. This is a hard one. Other than
Yeah.
your surge protectors, what is your favorite piece of technology?
Um, well, I'm a music guy. I played group piano growing up and stuff. So I would say, my keyboard that I have, I have a Casio workstation
All right.
keyboard.
Nice.
And so being able to do recordings and stuff like that very easily. So I would thank whoever invented MIDI, because that's still my favorite technology.
That's
Because if it
awesome.
wasn't for MIDI, you know, MIDI
I
got
love
me a
it.
lot, So I would
That's a
say,
great.
I bet that's
That's a
one you
great
never
answer.
heard.
That's one I never heard. That's a great answer. I love that. I dabbled in the sax and the clarinet back in the day.
Oh,
So
okay.
maybe if I ever dust those off, we
You
could.
could join a ska band or something.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. I
You
never
play.
played in the horn, but
I played it a couple times as a keyboardist in a band. Like, there's a song "Mirror in the Bathroom" that has a
okay.
big sax solo, and I played it on my keyboard. So
Nice. Okay.
yeah, I
I mean,
remember that.
anything Billy Joel, you could pretty much guarantee
Billy
there's a
Joel,
saxophone, so I could just,
Springsteen.
right,
You can do a lot of
right.
blues. I've been lately into the blues. I follow a lot of the blues artists in New Jersey and got to know a few of them. And going to see one actually on Friday.
Nice.
It's Allie Venable. She's out of Texas. I met her when she was just starting out playing like 20 people, little dive bars. And
Yeah.
now she's opening for Kenny Wayne Shepherd. So it's like,
Oh wow.
so it's kind of cool to follow. It's kind of like following a baseball player through the minor leagues.
Yeah. Yeah. And nothing
So we're
beats
doing
live
that.
music, so you get to like
Yeah.
experience it. Just
So we get to mask up and go and do that. So that's gonna be
awesome.
fun. But
This was
did you want to talk about the supply chain, since that's on my little sticky here to remind me?
go for it. I
I
honestly,
just figured because we advertised it a little bit. So
we just kind of dive down talking about everything else.
So I just want to hit that because it is kind of an important thing, and it's affecting everybody. I mean, it affects us. I mean, we see it in the grocery store, right? You see it, car dealerships. I was at a car dealership getting service, and there's like a quarter of the cars in the lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be hurting them. But I was just saying that I think it started before COVID. A lot of this stuff. I would say it started with the tariffs that the Trump administration did, because that raised prices immediately across the board. And that caused this like accordion effect with supply chain, because everybody's kind of waiting. Oh, are they going to drop the supply, the prices again? So it's like people kind of held out for a little while.
Yeah.
Or can I get exemptions? My suppliers are trying to get exemptions and things like that. And so that kind of, and then they were also holding prices because they thought it was all temporary. So a lot of suppliers were holding, like we were holding our prices. And then we ended up having to raise them a little bit to accommodate that. And then what happens, it's kind of like a traffic accident where you have the accordion effect. You had a 10-mile backup, and then the accident's gone, but then it moves and then stops. It moves and then stops. And COVID just was like another accident that happened after the first accident. So then that kind of made this accordion go crazy. And we lucked out because we have to order, like, this guy's a custom product for us. So we have to order it, a year in advance, basically, supply, forecast it out.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
It's coming in, luckily, just before the pandemic hit in February. So we had supply through, as the thing stopped, the pandemic stopped everything for a while, and then our business picked back up. But so our supply was able to handle that. And so we were able to handle, and I think this happened to a lot of businesses where the pandemic stopped the supply chain, but then it stopped demand. So then you were able to ride it out, and then everything started going back again. But then everything heated up too fast. So then you can't get enough supply.
Right.
And so that's what happened again. And so then throw that one chip thing, and that kind of threw all the other technology people. And so I think this is going to be for at least another year. I mean, the shipping costs are still ridiculous too, because now there's a ripple of all the containers came back empty, so they have to ship them back because we don't have anything to ship back to Asia. And so
it's a lot. I was talking to someone who was used to shipping $2,000 for a full container, and now it's 10,000 USD for a full container. It's 5x of what it used to be.
Yeah, and air shipment too has gone from I
Yeah,
think $20 a cubic foot to like 44.
it's wild.
You know, and they're hurt. They need the business because
Right.
airplanes aren't flying passengers, but
Yeah.
there's still the price of their price is going up. So
Then you get into the conversation on airline fuel and sustainability
right,
and people who look at it from that angle.
right.
And
But I
then
mean,
you have the Suez Canal, which threw off things,
exactly.
which was I
Yeah,
was a
which
supply chain major back in the day, so I
oh, okay.
to try to follow somewhat.
Yeah, it started out with the commodities. Throw the pandemic on top and then throw this demand that went from nothing to
Yeah,
crazy in 1 year. And then everybody's kind of we're hedging because we were like, do we bring supply in?
yeah. Or do we
If
wait
you're a
it?
just-in-time company, this must have been really bad. I mean, we can't be that way. So for us, we lucked out, but it's hitting us literally like I'm waiting for a shipment of these guys to come in,
Yeah,
literally today. It should be in, which should help, but I have already future orders that are going to eat up most of that. And then so it's like this snowballing effect. You
yeah.
can't
You're just
make them
continuously
faster.
playing
That's
catch
the
up.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you ever consider opening up a shop to make those, or is that not?
Um, it's a lot of
That's probably a
so
whole nother business, right?
yeah, I mean, I have a friend who does Dennis and I have a friend named Grant. His company is very vertically integrated. I mean, they even make the boxes that they put their stuff in,
Okay.
and they paint their metalwork. They do everything basically from almost raw everything. And it makes sense for them because they make very high-end power supplies. So their costs are already can handle it. I don't think we could do that because we'd have to create this thing and then it would be either you do very low volume production or high volume production, and then you have people coming on and off the job. So that's the problem because the
Yeah, it's a
company
whole
that
other
does this for
beast.
us does all sorts of other transformers. So they have
Right.
people that are continuously working, and so that's it's kind of a catch 22. I mean, we're not there yet. I mean, I would say if we doubled in size, then maybe we would have to really consider it. But there's the environmental issues too in New
Yeah.
Jersey. Doing it in New Jersey, we'd have to, not that it wouldn't be that hard, it would be, more work. So that dollar value to do that, it's a high energy hurdle to get
Yeah.
over the first. So
Well, maybe this time next year we'll have a Tech Tuesday on
okay,
that side of the business.
sure.
Nah, but sorry I didn't bring that up earlier. I did want to talk to you about that.
Yeah,
We
no,
kind
that's
of
all right.
dove right into everything else, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah. I just
good.
want to make sure I got it because I saw my little sticky note here
Yeah,
reminding me.
yeah. Well, anything else from your side? I mean, anything else you want to
Um,
close out with?
well, like I mentioned, the Hack Hunterdon. So people who are in New Jersey, in Hunterdon County, we are gonna get it going again. We were stopped because of the COVID. It was a meetup the last Thursday of the month. We're probably gonna transition it to be quarterly and try to do more like a panel discussion type thing. So,
Yeah,
look out for that. I'm sure we'll advertise it. Probably not till maybe the end of January. We'll get the next one going. Start off next year with a good panel discussion.
I like it. I like it. All right.
Good.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Jonathan.
All right. Take care.